open up, lock you on the ground, take the crown away from you.
Oh, Lady Liberty, red, white, and blue. Did they take your dignity with their bigotry? Teach you that you're born to lose.
Free or guilty, it's gonna get filthy. Better believe, roll up your sleeves. It's gonna get rough, it's gonna be tough. We all agree, we've had enough. We've had enough of all the rules you break. We've had enough of all the money you make. We've had enough, no more life at stake. We've had enough, this is a proclamation. It's been 400 years and we're 400 late. Together we stand from state to state. Going back in time won't make America great. We need justice now, people won't wait. Action, no more distraction. Every step we take, we gain traction. If it can happen to one, it can happen to all. United we stand, divided we fall. Free or guilty, it's gonna get filthy. Better believe, roll up your sleeves. It's gonna get rough, it's gonna be tough. We all agree, we've had enough. We've had enough of all the rules you were breaking. We've had enough of all the money you were making. We've had enough, no more life gets taken. We've had enough, this is a proclamation. Free or guilty, it's gonna get filthy. You better believe, just roll up your sleeves. It's gonna get rough, it's gonna be tough. We all agree, we've had enough. We've had enough of all the rules you're breaking. We've had enough, all the money you're making. We've had enough, normal life gets taken. We've had enough, this is the proclamation. We've had enough. Trayvon Martin and Tommy Rice. We've had enough. Michael Brown and Eric gonna pay the price. We've had enough. Philando, Breonna, George Floyd. What? We've had enough. So many gone. How can we fill the void?
How can we feel?
We've had enough. John Crawford, I know you've heard. We've had enough. Sandra Bland, come on and take a stand. We've had enough. Sean Bell, what the hell? We've had enough. Freddie Gray, did you hear what I said? We've had enough. This is a proclamation.
Good afternoon. I'm Al McFarlane. Welcome to Conversations with Al McFarlane. Glad to be here and glad to have you along. Let me introduce to you the co-host of today's show, and that's AZ Kirsten. AZ is content producer for our show, content creator, and hold on, turn my phone off, and is producing today's program, featuring artists here in Twin Cities, and maybe joined by some special guests, talking about art, their creativity, and the impact of the times. We're all focused on the power, the pressure of the George Floyd incident, the COVID-19 pandemic, and the pressures of living in a community, trying to be authentic, to be ourselves, to be creative, and to create the kind of world we think we deserve and that humanity deserves as well. AZ, good afternoon. How are you?
I am good, Al. How are you today?
I'm well. Take a minute to introduce yourself. You take a couple of minutes and just speak to our KFAI audience and our audiences nationally at Black Press USA and in the region at McFarlane Media, Inside News, YouTube pages, and Facebook pages.
All right, well, hello. Like as it's been said, my name is AZ Kirsten. I recently started working with Insight News, doing a lot of their digital media work. And I actually just got done doing a video based on a lot of local Black artists here in the Twin Cities. And it motivated me to do it because, so much was happening in a city that I lived in that was racially pressing. And everywhere you see canvases being painted and boards on the windows being painted and George Floyd Square is filled with art. So I really wanted to take the time to ask the artists what was the motivation behind it and how they were using their art to send a message.
And so talk about what you discovered, what common themes, and who you're going to be introducing in the course of today's program.
Well, I will hope to be introducing Enzy Rose, who is a local musician. She makes kind of like hip hop music. And I also hope to be seeing LeSean Lee, who is a local photographer who covered a lot of the protests, both locally and afar.
Okay. And your video, I have to tell you, AZ, is just phenomenal. You did a great job. We're posting it to our YouTube page, I believe. We're going to try to find more ways to share it. Do you want to start with some of that video to give people an idea of what you're doing? What do you think?
Absolutely. All right.
Okay, and you can talk about it to set it up, but also screen share it.
All right.
And while you're setting that up, we got some other friends on the call as well. One of my colleagues, Al Flowers, is here, and we're joined by some of the people in his network that are creating change in our community. We'll come back to Al Flowers in a few minutes, so let me know when you're ready, AZ.
Yes, of course. All right. All righty. Is everyone seeing this?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So you have to explain it for the radio audience. They're going to only hear the audio. So you have to tell them what we're about to do.
All right. So in this video is, I'm just going to show a portion of it where we talk about the hopes for the future as far as like what was to come after the Chauvin trial, because the verdict had not been out yet when this video was made. So it was really just talking about how art was motivating our hopes and how we used it to express ourselves and express what we want to see in the world with the verdict and the change that was to come after it.
So what's on the screen, again, for the radio audience, is a still shot of George Floyd Square, I believe, and the type on it says, "What are your hopes for the future?" This video is called Artist Take on Chauvin Trial, and it's created by AZ Kirsten. So go ahead and play a few minutes of it, AZ.
All right.
You can definitely tell the presence and the role of the police is changing in Minneapolis. You can tell that the culture of Minneapolis is slowly starting to turn. It's hard to fully see the effects because of COVID, and I think in the year following, we'll see more reform and we'll see more change. I just hope the city comes back in the way that we would like.
Well, I mean, obviously, I want to see justice, but you know, it's hard to hold out hope for that when I don't know. I feel like this is what our system is designed to do. It's hard to envision it really holding itself accountable for that. I guess my hope would be for the people of Minneapolis to once again come together and stand up for what we believe in, whatever that looks like. But I don't put much faith in the court system at this point. So
I think we just need to, keep raising awareness that it's been a problem and it is a problem. Just like with the Breonna Taylor stuff, like we're still saying her name. We're still, telling people, educating people, and doing our part. I feel like I'm always doing my part as a African American female, just raising awareness to like my white friends or to people who may not know enough And, you know, yeah, that's what I think that's what we should all do moving forward, and stick together too. You know what I mean? Like, a lot of people want to see us fight each other and bump heads, but if we all, you know, stick together and love each other more and just accept each other, no matter, because we're all human. You know what I mean? So I think that's what we can do moving forward. And
do better. Even if you think you're doing enough, you're not. You can always, and that's for everybody, especially law enforcement, correct other people. You can always see someone doing wrong. You can always help them. To be in such a position and not use your voice, especially when you know right from wrong, that is one of like the most hurtful things you could do. So use your voice and use your power for the better and to help other people and support other people.
I definitely want there to be a consequence in terms of the verdict of murder. I think that the ripple effect that I'm seeking is that the community that lives here in Minneapolis, that we feel that this injustice is acknowledged. I just think that we're just really, really, really going to be in trouble as a city if the verdict does not acknowledge wrongdoing, if it doesn't acknowledge murder. We just, it's going to be really, really difficult to live in Minneapolis. I already know people who, including myself, who are planning to like not live in this country. We really need justice to prevail.
You know, BLM is bigger than an organization. It's bigger than a hashtag, a social media trend. It's bigger than a summer. It's bigger than this year, this moment, in this event. What it really represents is that we want equality. We're not asking for anything more than to be treated equal, fair, and just. And I don't think that's a tough ask. I don't think that's unreasonable. I just encourage anyone, police officer or not, to understand that it's not just about the organization. It's about equality for not only us, but for everyone. You know, our lives need to matter so that everyone's life matters.
That's awesome, AZ. Good work. What are your feelings about it? Tell me what your thoughts are for what you did and what you learned as you were doing it.
Well, I definitely learned that there's a lot of different perspectives to how to look at this movement. And I feel like a lot of the times anger is expected because it is such a, like so much hostility was being put against us that I feel like we were expected to respond with like the same amount of hostility, which I think is what they showed in the news with like the very first night of like riots and stuff like that. But quickly following that day, there was like nothing but peace and unity and community. And so much of that was brought to us by the art that we see everywhere. It's literally what's, I feel like, been connecting both like the Minneapolis, St. Paul. It's kind of hard to see where you are because everywhere you go, there's boarded up windows, but there's also art and spoken word and messages everywhere. So I definitely learned that so much expression is going through it, not just in the movement and the protests, but every day in everyday lives and all the way through the city. So it was really awesome to see people coming together and seeing such a hateful event bring us closer rather than push us away.
I'm Al McFarlane. This is Conversations with Al McFarlane. Great to have a show today. My co-host is AZ Kirsten. She's produced a marvelous video that you can see on YouTube talking about artist reaction to the Derek Chauvin trial. And so some of those artists are here now. AZ, why don't you and Kelvin bring them on? And we have other guests on the program as well. We'll ask them all to join and have this be a what I call a robust and rich conversation. And AZ, I'm going to have you introduce the artists that you've brought in today.
I'm actually not sure. That is the artist I invited today.
Okay. Well, let's do this. Let's see who else is here so far. I know that Al Flowers is here. I know that Mickey Lewis is here, who are community activists, and we were hoping to have some of the artists that you featured in the video. Are any of them backstage right now, Kelvin?
I do not believe so.
Okay, then let's bring back on whoever is on in the backstage room. Just open the conversation up. And I see there's Mickey Lewis, who's with the Truth Center in St. Paul. Mickey, welcome. Good to see you. And hang on a second. I'm going to bring Al Flowers in. And we're expecting another call from an artist who is in Jamaica. Phil McFarlane is with a band called Earth Cry. He's a cousin of mine. I've invited him to join the conversation to give another artist perspective. And if other artists who are in that video show up, just bring them onto the program when they come in. AZ, let me ask you then to just say more about the impact that these artists had on you as you were listening to their stories. And what do you think as a young artist, as a young creative, the challenge is, and what is the opportunity? Where do we go? And what does the challenge ahead mean for all of us, and especially for you as a young person and as an artist, as a person who thinks and feels deeply about community and humanity? What does it mean right now for you, AZ Kirsten?
Well, what it means for me, especially like after getting to talk to some of these artists, is that it really helps to know the people around you, to be able to pave your way through it. Because just being Black, people like to underestimate you and underestimate your ability. Or they often like to think that you provide a perspective in your art that isn't translated to everybody. It's only translated to the Black audience. And that's nowhere near true. I talked to Iyenga Bokamba, who is a painter, and in none of her art is there like faces or, bodies. It's very much colors and lines that she was talking about, where those also have a translation of like intersectionality and, like folding and like meeting ends. And so it was very interesting to be able to like see that art has a way to communicate. And as someone who's very passionate about communication and very passionate about art, finding a way to use the two together to create a message, to create a story, I feel like is very powerful. And in the artists who, got to witness and be part of such a big movement, it helps a lot to be able to have an outlet to express yourself, or have an outlet to express to others, and give them a perspective they don't always get to see. So I feel like with video, I am able to do that in its like purest form, where it's happening live, it's happening now, and I get to record it in its actuality. And so being a Black artist and being able to do that, I feel like allows a lot of openness to the community. It allows a vulnerability with the community to allow our perspective. And so I feel like that's definitely the biggest thing I've learned while being able to interview all these great artists.
Well, wonderful. Keep up the good work, and let's count on more of that coming from you, AZ. Hang out with me for the rest of the program, if you would, because I've got a couple of people that value your perspective, your energy, and both are responding to your generation. Let me say that from where I stand as an elder, I'm in my 70s. What I have lived for is to experience this conversation with you. And your interest and your capability, your ability, your genius mean everything in the world to me, because it's that expression that will move our people forward, and not only our people, or yes, only our people, because our people are all the people on the planet. That's the hour I'm talking about. It's a grand vision of humanity. And I think that you represent an ability to step forward, step into our humanity, and to determine and decide that your voice matters, right? Your vision matters, and that you have contributions to make that will shape and change and create a future in which our people win. And I've said this several times, winning may not be the same as other people have called winning. Our winning may be different. Our winning, from my point of view, doesn't require that somebody else lose. There's a way that we can all win. Let me bring some other voices in here. And one I'm pleased to have on the call, Brother Mickey Lewis. He heads the project called the Truth Center in St. Paul. It's an expanding project. Brother Lewis, how you doing, man?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being here. Two things. One is talk about the Truth Center, what the mission, the vision is, and respond to, as I have, this young person, this young gift, AZ, and I look at her as representing a generation and representing a future. So I'd love for you to weigh in from who you and how you deal in community with what young people bring forward.
Okay, great. First of all, it's pronounced 8218. So people see the numbers and they wonder, what does the 8218 mean? Well, it just stands for I mentor kids from the ages of 8 to 18. That's what that stands for. And what I do is I mentor them with a series of different classes, community awareness, conflict resolution. Primarily, it's just classes. It's just the things that we, being older, had to learn the hard way that we want to turn back around and teach these kids, not to learn it so that they don't have to experience it the way, some of us had to. The truth dynamic of it is, so if you're having a conflict with somebody, or if you know somebody that's having a conflict with some people, what I do is I reach out to those parties involved and I try to get them to come and sit down here at the center and try to hash it out before it escalates to something that's becoming just too familiar to us as a people. The last dynamic is it's an African American museum. So when you come in, you can take a trip around and people come and they take tours of this place, and it's just, where they can see some of our history. We can see some of the people that have put in such hard work to try to get us where we, want to be in time as a people, but, have showed us that as long as you fight for your dreams and your goals, that you can be successful. So those are kind of the things that I do at the Truth Center. And I'm proud to announce that, but this location is located on Lexington and Selby Avenue in St. Paul. I have a new location that we're doing the grand opening to this Saturday at 7 p.m. at 973 Payne Avenue. It's a lot of problems and stuff that's going on the east side of St. Paul that I thought I would put a location up there. So it's like a safe space for kids to come. So they come from the morning. Summer hours are going to be from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Friday. They come here, they just hang out. There's video games here. There's, just a place for them to come and kind of bond with each other and give them somewhere to go instead of having that idle time of being out walking the streets and maybe end up getting into some trouble. They can come here and hang out. There's free food. It's, they can watch movies here. It's a couple different, televisions and game systems. And, just kind of like that old school. I kind of grew up with having that neighborhood community center, which was really a community center where you could really go and have some fun and just hang out. And it's just like now, none of that exists for these kids. If they go to the neighborhood rec centers and stuff, they're being rented out by, tournaments and different that. So they barely get a chance to, utilize your gym or some of the things that, these community centers are supposed to have for them. They don't get a chance to really experience them. So I wanted to bring that back in, and that's what my centers are doing. So that's the whole Truth Center, kind of in a nutshell of what I'm doing. As far as with this young woman, it's amazing to see. And I just hope that, it's kind of like with us as a people, things are fads. So if we can kind of make it the new fad is to, be positive in the community, let your words, speak, great volume as far as being non-negative. I think that's something that a lot of these artists are afraid to take that leap into. There's some that, are connected enough with self and with where they want their vision to go that, hey, they'll do it. And me being a former artist myself, I definitely know I came up in the time I used to be in the studio with Tupac and different artists. I'm 49 years old, and I come up in that era where, kind of like gangster rap was a thing. And, it was pretty much just trying to tell this story of, how hard it was. And we didn't want to, talk about the positivity of life in itself. So to just hear someone else have, that courage enough to sit back and want to express how beautiful life really is. And of course, there is our struggles that we must talk about so that we can bring awareness to. But if we can show, through artistry that, life isn't about just, guns and us being hurt. We love each other and we want to express that as much as we can, especially if we have that platform to be able to do so with art.
I'm Alan McFarlane. This is Conversations with Alan McFarlane. My guest, the leader of 8 to 18 Truth Center, Mickey Lewis, and my co-host today, AZ Kirsten. And this is great, man. It's great to meet you and great to hear the story. And thank you for being here. AZ, jump in whenever you want to. This is how we do it. You got a question. The only question that's not a good question is the one that didn't get asked, right? So jump in whenever you want to. I'm thinking as you're speaking, Brother Mickey, that I want to hear more about your artistic evolution, what you did as an artist in the rap era, the gangster rap era. And as you were speaking, I'm thinking that I have such great respect for hip hop, the hip hop movement, hip hop culture, its ability, its demonstrated ability to be global and to invite the entire world into a new rhythm, a new sound, a new feeling, right? And then to control, to some degree, the commerce associated with our creativity, our genius. That's new, I think. It's newer. And so then the question becomes, how and why did gangster rap emerge the way it did? Was it a turn to the left or turn to negativity and away from the positive energy and implications of do for self that I thought hip hop, epitomized? What are your thoughts? I'm kind of rambling, but what you're saying just brings me so much to talk about. So I want to bring it out for you.
Well, hip hop was a way for us to express ourselves through storytelling and rhyme words together so that you could kind of just get a groove and kind of have a feel, give a person a little glimpse of life in itself, or just being able to show a talent. That, I guess that's the essence of like real hip hop. And then when gangster music came into play, it was also a way of telling, what I would say, like, primarily for me, it was what the West Coast, in the gang world and some brothers had to go through living, in their worlds, or, that was their life. So they were actually just telling some of the stories about, what they were actually going through. And I think that as time went on, it became, it became kind of like, a fad or a survival instinct to replicate toughness and to show that, you could stand up to anything or anybody, just even if that meant, doing something negative to that person and using whatever, by any means necessary, and I think that's what ended up happening. And it's just crazy how that genre of music has just took over the hip hop side of it in influencing us, as a people. And now once you mix that with, drug use and, so many different elements from, no fathers at home and, being raised certain ways and whatnot, I think that's just the pot just cooking itself for, us as a people to continue to spiral downhill.
AZ, how does that sound to you from the perspective of a 20-something, your generation, your cohort? What do you think?
I feel like it definitely makes sense. I grew up listening to old rap, and then as I grow older, still listening into the new rap. And I feel like a lot of what we have is the disconnect between like the actual message that they're sending and like the sound people want to hear. Because I feel like lately people really like you know, the music with a lot of bass and like it's fun to listen to. And I feel like that's the issue, is that we've made it like it's fun and it's no longer raw, you know, like people, I feel like rappers nowadays want to talk about stuff that they already know people want to hear, or people think is cool, or people can relate to. But I feel like we still have artists like J. Cole and Kendrick, who still like to bring up the messages of where the music came from, how being Black is a big part of like what makes like rap, is that it came from, you know, like being oppressed and needing a way to, you know, to articulate that. And I feel like now artists aren't as like oppressed because they've been given so many privileges. So their life is no longer filled with so much gang violence and like where they came from, because all they had to do was make a really good album. So now their life is like, you know, I'm partying and drinking and, you know, having sex with all these women. So it kind of gave them, they stopped talking about what happened before they got big, and they're just started to focus on now that I'm big. And I feel like that's where we've lost a lot of the authenticity in it.
What you think, Brother Mickey?
She's definitely spot on. You know, kind of when you listen to the music, definitely we do have the ones, the J. Cole's, like she said, and the Kendrick Lamar's, and you know the others that are trying desperately.
We lost your sound real quick. We lost your sound. Something happened.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah, they're trying desperately to keep that message alive. You know, it's just it's the fad of us as
Oh, and we lost your sound.
Lost you again. While he comes back, let me say what this conversation reminds me of, brings up in my memory.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
I do now, but let me finish the story here while just in response to what you and AZ were saying. I'm thinking about the transition, my transition from liking, say, calypso music to liking reggae. And I hadn't been familiar with reggae when a cousin of mine, our brother-in-law, introduced it to me. But I was kind of aware, like everybody else in the world was aware of Harry Belafonte and Deo Deo, Banana Boat Song, things like that, and this general feeling for this light, lifting, you know, lilting, Caribbean, happy Jamaican, happy Trinidadian vibe that all that music carried in it. And then my friend or my brother-in-law brought me over this record, and it was probably either Bob Marley or one of the earlier versions of the maybe, you know, super reggae superstars. And what I heard for the first time was this booming bass. You mentioned the question of bass, right? And so the bass itself turned the music inside out and upside down. And it seemed like, my comparison is this, that the beauty of Calypso was that it described a flowery, beautiful, lyrical existence, but it did not reflect or allow you to appreciate the foundation of it. And reggae music, by distinction, focused with the bass and the drum on the heartbeat, right? And the bass and the drum, in a sense, connected to your own body and to your walk and to your stand and how you feel as you stand. And it made you feel like your own body was rooted in the earth, just like that music was showing and saying. So that was a big change in the culture, a change in the music. And the change meant from this is in my generation, the niceness of Calypso, very polite, very courteous, very funny, very light, you know, entertaining, to the seriousness of reggae. And reggae was telling me until the color of a man's skin is of no more significance than the color of his eyes, there's going to be war. The message was a message about fighting and a message about putting on a war footing inside our culture and in the world, and to rebrand ourselves through our music. And that's what I believe reggae did, And I think what reggae did is what hip hop has done as well. They kind of came through the same time. Brother Mickey, does that make sense to you? My understanding, my awareness. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely to a certain extent. It's like I think the elevation of, it seems like, violence, whether it was television shows or movies, and all that played into where we are now with music. And I think that just like if you're on Facebook or the internet or whatnot, you can show something positive, and that doesn't get as many shares and likes as if you show two people fighting, or a person being shot down or something like that. It's like we've been kind of conditioned to accept being hurt and wanting to see us continue to be hurt. And that's the fight. That's what it's about. It's trying to show us in a different light. Let's start to see us in a different light. And we need all those outlets, especially music. Music is one that the movement that I have with trying to be an activist to kids or just in my community, and that us as people, that's might be one of our strongest fights against, is our own music and how we continue to depict ourselves through it. And I think that until we can finally, as people, maybe stop supporting some of the ones that continuously make record after record that just talk about how to continue to harm ourselves, whether it's our mental, whether it's our bodies, our temples, and each other. I think that that fight for us as activists or people that are cliche, woke, or whatever you want to say. I just think that is going to be, that's our fight right there, is within our own self and our own people. And music is one of the top boxers. If we call it fighting, music is one of our top fights.
Yeah, go ahead, AZ. Comment, feedback, thoughts. I have a question when you're done.
What you were saying made me think of Nina Simone and how her music has been, I feel like, revolutionary for me, because I got to see almost like the timeline of like the Black struggle through a lot of her music. So I'm thinking about early Nina Simone, where she was talking about, Blackbird. Why do you want to fly, Blackbird? You're never going to fly. And then now we got to the point where it's, I'm feeling good, where it's like, and that's where we got to what her music and music in general kind of got us through. Was in the beginning, it's hard. Like, this is hard. Like, feel my pain. And then we finally got to a point where it was like, I hope you feel my pain, but I don't have to hold on to that pain because I'm feeling good. I am good and I am comfortable in my Black skin. I am happy in my Black skin. And before, it was Black skin always felt like it was a shield, that was very penetrable, where it was like we used it to like emulate like strength, but that emulation of strength was needed because underneath we are so vulnerable as being a Black person. So I just feel like music has been able to, and art in general, has been able to showcase how we've gotten from that to now we're feeling good. And so I feel like it's really important that music keeps that up, because we still need that feel good. We still need to feel good. We still need to be happy in our skin. We still need to know that no matter the struggle, no matter what we go through, our skin will never be what tears us down. It'll only be what gives us strength. And we need as much representation of that as possible.
When you think of Nina Simone, I've got a favorite song that I play of hers that just makes me smile. It's funny, but it also speaks to this protest orientation that I have coming out of my generation. If you're familiar with the song Pirate Jenny, do you know that song by any chance? Do you know that one? Are you familiar with that one, Brother Mickey?
I'm not, no.
Okay, Pirate Jenny is a story about a woman in the Caribbean who's in the pirate era, who's like a barkeep, supposedly, in this hotel, and she sits there, scrubbing tables and washing floors and getting abused by, the guys, right? The probably the colonial type people. And at a certain time, the mood changes. There's a ship pulling in the harbor. And at some point in time, the town gets flooded with pirates. And they round up all these guys that had been ridiculing her as a barkeep, right? And she has gone to her room and comes back down wearing, fancy clothes and gold in her hair, she says. And the pirates round up the people. They burn the whole town down and round up the people that were, again, probably the merchant class or the colonialists. And they brought them to her and said, shall we kill them now or shall we kill them later? And so common sense says, this has got to be the way out of it for the story to end. She says, kill them now. And there's a definiteness and intentionality. The allegory is kill this idea of oppression now. Don't put it off. You got to deal with this right now because it is anathema. It's the opposite of our liberation and our freedom. So that's a Nina Simone story for you. 8 to 18 Truth Center. So tell me how the 8-year-olds right now are coming to you, are presenting themselves. What's in the context of this conversation? Are they coming full of life, full of opportunity? Are they already pressurized by the George Floyd trial, and pressurized by this knowledge of the shooting and killing that we are doing in our community, and which is leaving 6 and 8 and 9 and 12-year-old children dead? What are you hearing? What are you feeling from those children and from their parents?
The children are all different. And that's because their parents are all different. Their backgrounds are all different. The way they're being raised is all different. I have some kids that are 8 years old that come in here and they have a 2-parent household that, loves them and shows them some of the good things in life. And so their attitude, their feelings aren't the same as there's some kids that are 8 that don't have none of that probably have, one parent, and that parent is partying most of the day, they're not feeling that love or whatnot until they come to a center like mine. When it comes to the music, these kids are almost the same, and it's when I sit and I just watch them, how they react to it. These kids, they're kids, so 90% of them don't understand what lyric they're singing, what it means. They don't even really know what they're saying. They just know that, hey, I got a friend that's singing or saying this, and hey, this is what we say, and this is what we do, And so I sit and I watch them, and it's kind of hard because last week I had a Memorial Day for the kids celebration out at the park, and it was all about the kids. So I had a DJ out there that played music, and I just watched how it was so hard for this DJ to play some music that was appropriate for these kids. It almost was none. These kids are, the music that you play for the kids are the music that we listen to just with the cuss words cut out. And is that sending a message to these kids? Is that growing these kids up angry? Is that growing these kids up wanting to participate in the violence in which this record is telling them is appropriate for them to do, or it's cool for them to do? I mean, it's a battle, and these kids are they're all over the place. Like, you have some kids that they understand the Breonna Taylors and what has happened with the George Floyds, and they understand it. They feel that for a brief moment, but then when they get back to their norms, when they get back to their friends or whatnot, all that is being wiped away from them because their norm is to kill, hurt. You're darker than me, I don't like you. Your shoes ain't like mine, or mine ain't like yours. So I mean, it's like, that's where the fight is. That's where all day long it's the greatest of kids. Kids are great. They're pure. They don't know, but they emulate what they see and what they're around and what they hear, and that's where the struggle and the fight is continuous at. And we have to figure out as a people, how do we get, deeper into these kids at a younger age to get them to show them that, music is just music. Like, a scary movie is just actors with some makeup on their face acting. It's not for real.
That's amazing. Yeah, because they take it to this is reality, and it's not at all. I was out watering my lawn this morning, like at around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock daybreak, right? And then across the street from where I live in North Minneapolis, there was a guy on the phone. It might have been a young kid, I'm guessing. He's like maybe half a block away from me, but he's cussing on the phone, talking to somebody, and it must have been a beef between him and somebody. And there's a woman with him across, they're both leaning on a car, he on one side, she on the other side, but he's talking about fight to somebody on the phone. And I'm presuming that he had an argument with either the woman's boyfriend or man, or could have been, I don't know who it was, but the thing looked like people saw themselves in a movie and they were simply acting out some parts that they felt they could do. That's kind of how I looked at that. And it seems to me often we walk around playing music and we have this thing in our minds that everything is a soundtrack, and we have bought into this notion of fantasy, and we can't separate fantasy from the practicality of reality, the right now-ness of what we have to do and are doing just to be ordinary, just to be decent, ordinary people. And there's pressure on us to be different. Let me ask you about resources. 8 to 18, providing direct services to children and to families. How difficult is it to resource your organization? And what do you need? What should people who are listening right now know to help direct resources to fund your organization and organizations like yours, work like yours? Because I think that too often we don't get the appreciation and the support we need. Al Flowers has been in and out of the conversation, but he always quotes me. My famous quote is, "They get the money, we get the misery." And so too often white people are able to organize a way to study us and to look at us and to admire the problem and spend a lot of money doing it, and then kick it down for the next generation to admire the problem and spend a lot of money doing it, but they haven't solved the problem. If they had solved the problem would not exist. The problem's solution, I believe, Brother Mickey and AZ, is within us. If we are associated with the problem or perceived to be the problem, we must be seen and project ourselves as the solution to the problem as well. So what do you need from our listeners here on KFAI, from public and private, corporations, individuals, people, to be aware, to support your work, your vision at the 8 to 18 Truth Center?
So I have, since I opened about a year and a half ago, I received a small grant that is long gone. But when I set out for the mission of creating a safe space for these kids, I did it with the sole thought of doing it with my own resources, and whatever I had to give will be my contribution to my higher power to show that, I do care, and I know I was sent here from him, to better myself, to be the best I can be, and the better people around me. I grew up in a house that I didn't, I could wake up on a particular morning and go downstairs to eat, and there might be somebody else at the table that I didn't even know, because that's the type of house that my mother raised me in. Is, we looked out for everybody. She taught me how to take a loaf of bread and a pack of bologna meat, and make as many sandwiches as we could. And if we had more people, we cut it in half, and that made more sandwiches. So when it comes down to it, my resources is just as long as I can keep a roof over this head, over these kids' head, and some of them packs of bologna meat and bread, we're gonna make it work. I'm not one that comes to meetings and sit back and believe that, first of all, you know, some other people will fund our freedom. I'm just not naive enough to believe that, you know, that's what's out there for us as a people. I believe that, you know, if we can go around from week to week and spend monies in these bars and, you know, go shopping and buy the highest priced things that's out there, we could take that very same money and start to fund some of our own programs and fund ourselves as a people so that we can get out of this turmoil that we are in as a people and stop believing or thinking that there's some other superhero, you know, that doesn't look like us and think like us is going to be the one to give us what we need to get out of what we're going through. I'm not going to come to and you know, beg and ask for this or that. When it comes to my organization, I just ask, if you want to donate, you do what your heart tells you to do, whether that's monetary or whether that's, you know, with some bags of chips around here for these kids to snack on when they get a little hungry. And we're going to make it work, you know. And if my funding that I have, or if I don't get none and it lasts us 2-3 years or whatever, that's just the time that God, my higher power, gave me to do what he wanted me to do. And if I have to go on to another adventure or go past and do something else, then I fully accept that I did my part for as long as he, you know, gave me the resources to do it. But that's just something that I'm not going to do. You know, I haven't done it, and I will not stand up and, you know, beg somebody else to help fund our freedom when we have to do this on our own. We gotta, you know, we have to, you know, stand together on this. We got to start pitching in them $5-10, whatever it might take, you know. And you know, our spending power, we all know, is tremendous. It's just, you know, it's uncomparable, you know. But we need to get a hold on what we're spending it on, and if we really want change. And to me, it, you know, as many people as we have, whether it's marching or we have that's upset, you know, when something happens to one of us, as many people as we have as a people that are doing these things, I don't see why organizations ain't flourishing with money themselves if everybody that claims they care really care. To me, you know, you ain't got to be Einstein to figure it out, but I don't think as many people care as they claim to. So
what I actually really like about your Truth Center is the fact that you provide a lot of opportunities, not just for the children, but for people who feel like they want to make a change, like to donate or to, you know, be mentors. And I feel like that's a big part of what's going to shape this future, is letting kids know they have opportunities.
Yeah.
I think that was such a big conflict growing up for me, was that I felt like all the opportunities weren't even accessible to me. I feel like they were far away. You know, if I wanted to film, you had to go to California. If I wanted, you know, to go to college, I'd have to do X, Y, and Z first before I even got that opportunity. So I feel like creating that safe space where children can realize that even as children, that they can do a lot more than they feel they're able to do, because all of that's left to the adults, or all of that's for later. I feel like it really provides them a voice and provides them a good step up that other people might not have. And I feel like even I myself need to do better of like connecting to younger people and providing them opportunities, whether that's just to speak or if that's getting their foot in the door somewhere that they feel they didn't have, you know, like the resources or the opportunity to get to.
So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. I was about done.
So you're absolutely right. These kids that come here, so I believe that the younger a kid is and the quicker you can give them a leadership position, that could carry them a long way. I think that we need to start letting these kids know from young ages that they're leaders already, that we need them. With
No, go
Can
ahead.
you hear me? Yeah. So at
Yeah.
my centers, I do things like I need one of the kids. They're in charge of sweeping, so that's their first job. So they work for me. They make $5. I mean, hey, for a kid, whatever. There's one they clean off the table. So I take this small space and I make them feel as if I need them. Like, you know, um, I need you to be here because I need these tables done.
That teaches responsibility and accountability while he comes back. AZ reminds me, and I think Brenda probably is in the background writing the story on this, but where Brenda, Lyle, Gray, and I grew up in Kansas City, we had a community, a neighborhood where everybody expected us to do well. So I grew up with this attitude, and I talked to my friends. You probably know Say Two, who's an artist, renowned world-class artist in St. Paul, but from St. Paul, Minneapolis, and Tacumba. And we've talked about this growing up. Our parents and our neighbors and our friends all had great expectations of us. And no matter which way we turned, we were being told by family and parents and grandparents and elders and neighbors that we were great and that we were to do great things. And so we grew up in that light. The only fear we had was the fear of failure, to not live up to the expectation that the elders provided to us and connected us to. So our path and our passion was to find the conduit to emerge into what they had envisioned for us. And you hit it squarely, Brother Mickey. It's a question of creating that leadership mind early on. And I call the entire conversation, I describe it this way. I believe that we have a duty to be intentional in creating a public mind, a mind of our community, of our people, that is reflective of our sense of both decency, of productivity, of proficiency in work and in leisure, in creativity, in compassion, in serving, and in building. We have to shift the dialogue, change the narrative, and the narrative that must flow from our intention is a narrative that in itself is a pathway to our collective greatness. And our collective greatness is not greatness compared to anybody else, and it's not greatness compared to or meaning we have to lord over anybody. We simply must lord over ourselves, right? Recognize this notion and the presence and the opportunity of lordship within. What does it mean? So I'll drop it with that. AZ, give me some feedback.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
No question. I'm just talking, So just feedback on the words I just expressed.
Yes, I think that the example you gave is a great example that when the expectation is always like a really big fear, because it's always like you in your head, or like think that you can do and accomplish great things. But what really allows you to like confirm that belief is when other people also believe in you. And so being surrounded by a community of people who are trying to uplift you and giving you a voice and giving you a purpose, I feel like that is really what's going to drive the leadership of tomorrow to, only be better and better as it keeps going. Like that's the point, is to really improve the conversations of all ages and all people, to be able to make everyone feel like that they have purpose, they have a reason, and no matter what the obstacles are, they're going to achieve it.
We've got about 30 seconds. Mickey, I want to have you take the last 30 seconds to give address, phone number, website. How can people support you, contact you at 8 to 18 Truth Center? Nope, you're muted now. Nope. I think we're going to lose this last 18 seconds. No, we won't. But you know what? We'll be talking to you again, right? And we'll be promoting what you're doing and celebrating you. And I take this moment to thank you, AZ. I thank you for your creativity, for the powerful video you've done. That's going to be available on our YouTube page and beyond. I'm Al McFarlane. We'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.
Tired of the ruthless execution. Tired and ready for revolution. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. Tired of injustice and brutality. Tired of the beatings and fatalities. Tired of racist inhumanity. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm so tired of being sick and tired. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. No more mothers crying, no more others dying. No more. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. Tired of hate and discrimination. Tired of the second-class frustration. Tired of religion for generations. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. Tired of the suffering and neglect. Tired of centuries of disrespect. Gotta take your knee off my neck. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. Oh, sick and tired of being sick and tired. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. Sick and tired of being sick and tired. We just can't go on this way. We've got to break these chains. Now's the time to make a change. Together we can celebrate today. And tomorrow, say the name. Go Freddie, Eric, and Jamal. Say the name. Sandy, George, and Rihanna. Say, make me wanna scream and holler. Sick and tired. Sick and tired. So sick and tired. No more mothers crying, no more others dying. Sick and tired of being sick and tired.